problems are same, but improvement in cutter, machineries, and illumination system helps us much. Now, my topic is talk about diabetic vitreomacular interface disorder changing paradigm. So, we don't have any financial interest in this matter. Let's see what are the changes happening in diabetes. There is non-enzymatic ligation of the proteins, degenerative changes in the vitreous. It occurs at a very earlier stage, which can produce anomalous PVD. And this anomalous PVD I will come to later on. And now, what are the vitreous changes occurs in diabetic retinopathy? In diabetic retinopathy, the vitreous, there is a progressive vitreous contraction now, even after successfully regressed PDR caused by PRP. If there is bleeding in previous stages, this further augments the contractile property of the vitreous that may lead to the all complications like tractional retinal detachments, secondary retinal detachment, persistent macular edema, premacular hemorrhage, all these things. Now, what is happening with anomalous PVD? And so anomalous PVD, it can be partial thickness, which may lead to vitreous crisis, which may lead to epiretinal membrane formation. Ultimately, if there is centrifugal traction, it can lead to macular hole, and if there is centripetal traction, it can lead to macular pucker. And if it is full thickness anomalous PVD, it can lead to partial PVD. You should know that in diabetes, especially in diabetes, partial PVD is very common. Complete PVD is very uncommon. So this partial PVD can, if there is posterior traction is there and peripheral separation, it can lead to macular traction, which may lead to vitreomacular tractional syndromes, which is very common in diabetes, and progression of diabetic retinopathy, DME, and other pathologies like neovascular AMD. And if there is optic distraction, that may lead to vitreomacular detection. So full thickness separation, if there is posterior separation, but peripheral traction, it may lead to retinal tear formation, as well as retinal detachments. Now, diabetic vitreomacular interface disorder, which is best understood in OCT, these are all vitreomacular problems we deal in our day-to-day practice. So this is the spectral domain OCT. It helps in morphological accuracy, absolute adjunct to plus 90D or 70D exam. It's more convincing for the patient. You see the pre-op picture like this. Multiple traction is there, and after surgery you can see the traction is not there. And if you give it a single scan, pre and post-op picture, it will be more convincing for the patient. So now coming to the vitreomacular adhesions. As retina and vitreous adhesions are typically remains at the site where the bonds between the vitreous and retina are strongest, including macula, is referred to as vitreomacular adhesion. And what is symptomatic VMA? If these adhesions are very strong, abnormally strong manner, that can lead to that can produce symptoms that due to vitreomacular traction, and subsequently lead to loss of vision or distortion in vision. This is the one OCT picture of symptomatic VMA. Now, symptomatic VMA, orsiplasmin ZTI is one of the treatment of choice. It's non-surgical procedure. I think Dr. Manish will cover this part. And now, what is the role of 3D OCT? 3D OCT, you can get, see above there is two-dimensional OCT and 3D OCT, and you can see the focal additions. Whether it's a single focal addition or multiple focal addition, you should be very cautious during surgery. So 3D OCT, by which we can determine. So what are the approaches for to deal this kind of thick highlight phase, posterior highlight phase with VMT after doing good vitrectomy? Just see there is a lot of fibrous proliferation just parallel to the retina, and with the help of modern cutter, you can go very close to the retina. You can just with the saving mode, you can just save the whole fibrous membrane because the vascular part is not there. That's why the chance of bleeding is less. Another technique approach, it is proportional reflex cytodissection that modern constitution cutter have. You can separate by just jet of fluid flowing through the port tip, and you can just pull it the whole detached highlight phase from the retina. This is another thing. In case of broad-based adhesions, you can see the taut highlight phase. You can use 24 gauge needle to give a nick just over the highlight phase to create an opening, and you can just do that. You should be very cautious. You should not touch the retina. And after making this opening, you can just pull the highlight phase gently without producing any secondary break. We should be very cautious in this kind of situations. You can see posteriorly macula is absolutely flattened. So another situation of taut hyalate phase. After staining the hyalate phase, we have seen the hyalate phase not removing. It is not. We can't remove this hyalate phase. So we have bent the 24 gauge needle to produce the nick, and just with the same needle, bent needle, you can lift the hyalate phase from the surface of the retina, because this kind of situation may happen. The hyalate phase will remain. If you are not removing it, it will remain as a macular plaque-like formation, lead to posteriorly ERM formation. So do good vitrectomy to complete removal of all hyalate phase. If it is thickened, stain the membrane and use these kinds of approaches. Now, role of 3D OCT also in decision making in extreme situation of VMT, fractional retinal detachment can occur at the macula. So you can assess the macula by 3D OCT like this, pre-op picture, and I think that Ranandas will cover on the retinal detachment part. But still, I am showing one approach of tackling this kind of macular TRD after doing a vitrectomy, do the PVD induction, and after PVD induction, I have stained ERM part with the help of Titan glue. It's ready glue, 0.15% ready glue. It's do the good ERM removal, and as much as possible. Sometimes this ERM can be very sticky. It is very stick to the underlying IRM. So if you are removing ERM, you can remove the IRM also. So to confirm it, I have injected brilliant blue G dye to stain the residual ERM, residual IRM. That see this is IRM is also been removed along with ERM in the macula foveal part, central part of the macula. Thus you can enlarge the remove the residual IRM. And you can finish the surgery, do the fluid exchange after doing laser like this. So, in follow-up, you can see the pre-op picture is like this and post-op picture, and the 3D OCT is showing absolute flattening of the macula. So, you did a good job. So, this is another situation. So, refract account is a very challenging situation. It's a refractory diabetic macular edema. Refractory to prior anti-VEGF therapy, refractory prior anti-vitreoretinal steroid therapy, along with macular laser photocoagulation, and basically it is caused by the extensive breakdown of the inner and outer blood retinal barrier. So treatments are challenging, and good vitrectomy along with ILM removal, it is the maximum you can do in this kind of situation. You should know that vitrectomy removes the anterior-posterior vitreomacular traction. It removes vitreous crisis. A removal of osteoporotic factors from the vitreous cavity is possible. It can improve the microcirculation and reduce the abnormally high macular blood flow, and improves the oxygenation inside the vitreous cavity as well as ischemic retina. And you should know a little bit about diabetic ILM. They are actually quite different from the ILM. Normal ILM or whatever ILM we are getting in the macular hole, they are intrinsically pathologic. There is thickening. Basically, this thickening is related to the elevated HbA1c, duration of diabetes and age of the patient, and there is cell abundance on the vitreous surface. Now, this is a case of refractory diabetic macular edema where I plan to remove the ILM because ILM removal facilitates removal of the residual posterior vitreous cortex. It ensures complete removal of posterior hyalate phase, complete removal of residual transition traction is possible, and it ensures improves oxygenation to the retinal tissue. It relieves anoxia. So, with the help of in-gripping forceps model, Dr. Sena has already told, with the help of reshaper in-gripping forceps, we are just peeling the ILM from the macular area as much as possible, and there is a great debate whether you should do the ILM peeling or not, but this kind of situation, refractory diabetic macular edema, people are saying that only vitrectomy doesn't suffice your treatment of choice, so you should peel the ILM and just see the results are really encouraging. This is the pre-op and post-op picture, resolution of all large cystoid spaces you can see. Even in the M6 scan also giving the loss of cystoid changes, post-operatively, pre-op it was there, post-operatively you can see there is a loss of cystoid changes, so macula is absolutely flattened, edema has totally absorbed. Now coming to the epimacular membrane, in diabetic epimacular membrane, they should know that they are mostly multi-layered, consisting of predominantly fibroblast and fibrous astrocyte. So you should stain the ERM with the help of trypan glue initially, and remove the ERM nicely, and you should not be sure enough that I have removed all the ERM is not there. So stain again with the trypan glue. Now you can ensure that the ERM removal is possible because in this situation I am removing the ILM, not ERM, and whatever residual ERM is there, it will be removed along with the ERM along with this ILM. So ERM removal facilitates removal of visible tractional elements and reduction of macular edema. So it's possible. Now coming to the diabetic partial thickness macular holes. Sometimes chronic macular edema can lead to partial thickness macular hole formation. So postoperatively you can see and you can give the patient the single scan showing that pre and post op picture is like this. So it will be more convincing to the patient. And now in extreme situation, diabetic macular hole can occur. As the pre-op scan was like this, the C after doing vitrectomy has stained the membrane, and there is a lot of vitreous crisis part. These are all the things that is responsible for the tangential centrifugal traction to create a macular hole. I have stained the ERM with the help of trypan glue initially to remove the ERM, and as well as the vitreous crisis part was incompletely removed. I removed the ERM part also, but it was again not completely removed. Then I injected the brilliant protein gene dye to remove the ILM also. That this kind of situation is really helpful for the patient. You can see with the help of removal of ILM, this complete removal of all tangential traction is possible, whether it is vitreous crisis, whether it is ERM, or whether it is ILM. All the vitreous tractions can be removed. So these are the situations you can deal. Thank you for your patient hearing. Now I should invite Dr. Jayanto Gohab to tackle to managing the diabetic vitreous hemorrhage part. It's a rational and approach for vitrectomy. He is the director of the Saigas Hospital. Is a vitreoretinal entity in North India. I think people should know. Welcome, Dr. Manish. I think you are here, so thank you for this.
The words and the invitation to speak on this topic, and there will be a lot of overlap with my fellow speakers in terms of slide content and video. But then, do we know of anything called a simple diabetic vitreous hemorrhage? We don't. So it's an entity which, after clearing the hemorrhage, we find several pathologies underlying the hemorrhage, which we have to deal with as we move along. So I'll just put a few slides before I go on to the video. Now, as we all know, that in proliferative diabetic retinopathy, due to the stimulus of ischemia and the resultant activation of vessels and the microangiopathy that occurs, there is abnormal vessel growth which leads to vitreous hemorrhage, which can be intrajail and subhyalite. So now, as Dr. Tushar mentioned, over the years we have come to the conclusion that these are the main indications of surgery. So I will be dealing with vitreous hemorrhage as the main indication here. That's my topic is. Now vitreous hemorrhage can be, as I said, intrajail or intramacular, and it is now, as Dr. Tushar said, is broadly accepted. Leaving a vitreous hemorrhage in situ while retinopathy may continue unobserved is unacceptable, because we have become very aggressive in our approach with early vitrectomy in a non-clearing vitreous hemorrhage, which also serves, not only serves to clear the media, but also observation and stabilizes the retinopathy as well, once the scaffold is removed. Now with improved surgical techniques, the results of vitrectomy have, compared to DRVS, has improved considerably, indicating 87% in one of the studies, showing improvement by at least 3 ETDRS lines at 12 months, which include both type 1 and type 2. Now, as I said, not only type 1 as was mirrored as was stated in the DRVS, but type 2 patients can also be treated earlier. then because of the better instrumentation, adjuvantly, cooperative endo laser, which was not there in the database studies, and a lot of laser before the hemorrhage sets. Now, while waiting, it's absolutely imperative to do a periodic ultrasound examination, not only to merely detect the presence of detachment, which can be fractional or combined, and also thorough clinical biomicroscopy examination to detect neovascularization, which makes it even earlier to go for surgery. So, ultrasound B-scan, I would like to stress upon a few points here before we go on to the surgical aspects per se. That the ultrasound not only detects the presence of RD, but also helps us to plan the surgical approach and tells us gives information regarding vitreoskisis, which is an element, as you can see, both the arrows pertaining to the anterior and posterior walls of the skisis. It is very, it's imperative to deal with the posterior layer of the vitreoskisis and not to leave that alone, because that's the scaffold on which the reproliferation and take place. Ultrasound also shows the traction RDs and the tabletop. Now, a few words about dense premacular hemorrhage. There is a progressive fibrovascular proliferation involving the cortical vitreous gel and the posterior halide phase, which give rise to subsequent macular traction and ectopia. So it has to be treated very early. Few examples of the dense premacular hemorrhage. There is, in early cases, we can also attempt YAG laser hysterectomy. Sometimes it helps. But one small point with YAG laser is that I have seen few cases in which, as opposed to other cases of submacular hemorrhage, premacular hemorrhage, where there is an immediate release of blood into which drops down into the inferior part of the vitreous cavity. Here, there is a case for waiting for 2 weeks. In fact, I saw a case in which I waited for 2 weeks, and then it was planned for a surgery, and lo and behold, on the day of surgery, when we were examining, it is cleared. So just a point I want to make. So this is the system that I use at this side with all the other gadgets. The surgical goals, as in any diabetic case, would be the removal of the hemorrhage, excision of the posterior halide and retinal vascular membranes, retinal attachment tube, which is an RD and endo laser with a tamponading agent. So these are the good prognostic factors, and these are the poor prognostic factors. And one or two words about Avastin, as has been mentioned already. We also use Avastin now routinely within 3 to 4 days, because it facilitates, reduces pre-op neovascularization, facilitates membrane removal, and reduces intra-op and post-op bleeding. Now, just going to the technique before the video comes along. The posterior face, halide face is identified first, and an opening is created and is extended circumferentially, so as to release all the attachment with the base and the membranes, the fibrovascular membrane overlying the retina. Sometimes the retrohalide, as I will show in the video, it's a recent hemorrhage. There is a sudden gush of this retrohalide blood, which gives the entire cavity, and in the other cases, you can have a much clearer view. So it is imperative to release any traction on the retina by existing membranes, which is always vascularized. So just to overemphasize the same point was mentioned, peeling is not to be advocated, as in the other PVR cases. So because it might result in severe hemorrhage or tearing of the retina. So standard techniques would involve segmentation, delamination, envelope, and biomineral dissection techniques. One tricky situation before I go to the video is that sometimes you find a very sticky hemorrhage in the antivitreous gel adherent to the posterior lens capsule. So one technique which has been advocated, tried a few times, sometimes successfully and other times not, that injection of BSS into the anterior chamber to hydrodissect the anterior halide phase on the posterior capsule with a very slow rate of injection. Anyway, now one complication that has to be taken care of or maybe preventable at the time of the initial surgery is POVH, post-operative, which is found in 30%, which will not be early, it will be late, depending on the etiology. Hence, to follow AIOC's advocate, these obstacles to successful vitrectomy should be best managed by prevention rather than subsequent treatment. Appropriate management at initial vitrectomy will reduce the incidence of these complications. So these are the few measures we can take to prevent. One a small mention, just going on touching the few salient points which have to be highlighted. Hence the what was referred to as a vitreous base after the advent of the endoscopy-assisted vitrectomies. What we were dealing with actually the posterior part of the vitreous base. Anterior vitreous base is still left alone. So these are the two techniques. Few techniques have been shown in the earlier videos: fold-back delamination and conformal cutter delaminations. And as was mentioned, there is a small instrument which has been devised which can be used for dye-assisted viscodelamination. Very careful because it's very easy to put too much pressure and create tears while you are injecting these viscoelastics. So I'll just go on to the video. I have to come out and the question is near about the disc involving the peripunctate area. So after creating the opening in the retrovirus, VHF, we go around and then try to concentrate on the membrane peeling. Some vacuum cleaning can be done by the injured Charles cannula, removing blood, and the same cannula sometimes can be used to determine the correct plane of approach, which is very important before we go in with the cutter. Now we go in with the cutter, and wherever we found a cleavage, we go in, not to leave the vascular receptors alone. And as soon as you clear everything, you would find that there is a bleed from the disc, which is sometimes tricky. Disc bleeding is difficult to manage sometimes. Here you see the bleed from the disc. Put some PFCL, there is a borderline of the measures that are usually anticipated and practiced, as would be in this case also. We have fluid exchange, waiting, lowering the pressure, and waiting. We have to wait for a few minutes just to satisfy it, but still there would be rebleeds, I'm sure. In another case, big premature hemorrhage with a lot of fibrovascular tissue over in this. We used transdermal to stain in this case, like the vitreous and its attachments. Yeah, that's the whole I was talking about to creating the PHF. So once the thing is done circumferentially, there will be no more. While you are dealing with the central membranes, you will not be tugging onto the vitreous base. This is critical. So PFCL, as some viscoelastics also, creates the plane, as was being discussed. So which is a safer thing to use. You can actually peel off the tissue, all the tissue, from the surface of the retina. That is imperative. The use of preoperative adjuncts like bevacizumab also helps to peel off all the tissue, so that there is no later reproliferation and rebleed. Vitreous base is given attention to once the central tissue is cleared with depression and that's in the vitreous base. Of course, the posterior part of the vitreous base. Meticulous cleanup of the vitreous base is essential. Now, some other instrumentation is shown: illuminated forceps with segmentation of illuminated forceps and scissor, vertical scissor bimanually with the chandelier illumination of, which is a routine in practice. That's the role of early surgery means you very easy to peel off all the fibrovascular tissue from the surface, even from over the disc. Another case in which we have tried to create an opening. See, a recent case, not much laser into it previously, so there is a huge feeling of the vitreous cavity becomes hazy suddenly. Then you wait for some time, raise the bottle height. Except you don't raise the bottle height when you are using constellation, but see, the bleed we identified as from the disc and weaning it off from the surface of the disc, the proliferative tissue. Wait for some time, lower the bottle height. This is the thing which I usually add, from the cannula, go around the cannula and clear the. This is a case of full thickness macular hole in a case of diabetes with a taut posterior highlight phase which is being peeled off. So this usually this was the posterior edge of the vitreous crisis, which is critical. You have to identify the posterior edge, posterior layer of the vitreous crisis. Staining with BBG and peeling the eye line. Standard techniques. As in idiopathic macular hole, another small point, still is sticky. Iron still sticky. Doesn't peel off that easy. Fragmentation, piecemeal peeling is what is experienced here. Sometimes you would have to go past it. Here, forceps and cutter combination is being shown dominantly. Very easy to lift with forceps and antibiotic build-up, high build-up fluids. This is being, as was mentioned earlier, cutter can be used as a scissor. You can see there is a TRD and there is an iatrogenic break also, which has been created. Not unusual. The rest of the membrane is being peeled. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mugo. So we are running at the end of the session, and now we are going towards tackling diabetic retinal detachments. What are the current trends? Dr. Arnav Das is my very good friend. He's a very meticulous surgeon. He's working in our hospital for the last 13 years. I think Dr. Das, please proceed.
Thank you, Shubhantu. Retina, which could be pre-retinal in the form of vitreous traction or fibroblastic proliferation causing traction on the retina, subretinal traction in the form of bands and sheets, interretinal traction due to intrinsic retinal shortening, and one needs to ensure good hemostasis all throughout surgery and prevent future possibility of neovascularization by tight PRP and use endodamphodites judiciously. Conventionally, membrane peeling was done with intravitreal forceps, scissors and spatulas, with which the membranes were delaminated, segmented and peeled out. However, as Dr. Sinha was saying, with the advancement in machine and cutter technology in terms of speed, port optimization and duty cycle, things have changed drastically. I'll repeat it shortly, although Dr. Sinha has spoken of this. Talking of the changes coming first with cutter speed, has improvement in cutter speed really made a big difference? In this high magnification, slow motion video comparing cut rate and tissue movement, I would request you to take a note in the difference in the amount of tissue pull per cycle between the 1000 and the 2500 cuts per minute, and the difference between 2500 and 5000 cuts per minute. Obviously, the higher the cut rates, the lesser the tissue pull per cycle. Therefore, at higher cut rates, surgeon feels less traction on the retina due to less tissue drag per cycle with lesser possibility of iatrogenic breaks. Port optimization, the cutting ports of the vitrectomy probes have got closer to the tip, and this has allowed better access, making shaving close to the retina easier and safer. Duty cycle, as we all know, is the ratio of the on time compared to the total cycle time, and it's noted as a percentage. In machines like the Constellation, you can vary the duty cycle for any given cut rate. In the core mode, it's a maximum open port duty cycle, and in the shave mode, it's a minimum open port duty cycle. From a practical viewpoint, this offers the surgeon the ability to control flow independent of cut speed and vacuum. In this graph, please note the difference in the open time between the two duty cycles for the same cut rate. For example, at 2000 cuts per minute, the difference between the core mode and shave mode is 40% in terms of open time of the cutter. This variable duty cycle allows cutter to be used as a vertical scissor or a fragmentome, making it a multi-purpose instrument. Because of these advancements in machine and cutter technology, the need for forceps and scissors have drastically come down, and a lot of membranes, tough or delicate, can simply be shaved. Shaving is either conformational, where peeling conforms to the posterior concavity of the eye, or rollback, where the membrane rolls back into the cutter. Most of the cases can be managed unimanually. That's one active instrument in one hand, and the other hand only holds the light back. But in some cases, you need proportional reflux, where a water reflux creates a cleavage plane for membrane dissection, viscodissection, where viscoelastics are used to help create a dissection plane, and bimanual technique with two active instruments in either hands. And things like self-retaining torpedoes have greatly helped us go bimanual. Now I'll show you a few videos of some surgical cases. Yeah, starting with the case of pre-retinal fibrosis with TRD. Shubhendu had shown a case similar to this before, but repetition only helps understand and see things better. So we have created an opening with a needle which could be bent at the tip if you are a little wary of using it as a straight one. And once the opening is created, the cutter is used to shave off the membranous posterior highlight and the fibrosis. And of course, this is conformational shaving which is being done here. There is a slight lifting action while we are shaving, conforming to the posterior concavity of the eye. It's totally avascular. The small gauge retractors with port optimization, that's port closer to the tip as I was showing, has made this technique possible. Good patience and good focus is the key for any VR, more so in diabetic cases. Like here in this mid-peripheral area, as you are noticing, that the underlying retina is very thin with broad adhesions, and there is no cleavage plane, and this necessitated retinectomy in this mid-peripheral area. But once you have created a break, you have to ensure that there is no residual traction around it. The residual fibrous ironed over the disc, of course, is of no harm and can be left alone. Controlled aggression is key for diabetic VR cases. This is another case which is a premacular fibrosis, a thick one. Again, we are using shaving and conformation shaving at this moment. If you go straight, you will hit the retina. You have to always come a little up while shaving, because it will conform to the posterior concavity of the back surface of the eye. Now we are doing roll back technique. The membrane rolls back into the cutter and gets engaged into the cutter, and you can shave it. It's pretty simple actually with these modern day cutters. Clear macula is now visible. Case of diabetic vitreous hemorrhage with TRDs. Probably it's good to push in a torpedo because it allows you to go bimanual and of course improve bimanually. Timely cautery is key in diabetic VRs. Liberal use of triamcinolone is advocated. Nasal traction without any plane of separation may be left alone, or RR may be done to remove it, as I am doing it here. Again, remove all surrounding traction if you have created any break by intention also here. And since there is no residual traction, air or gas tamponading is enough. You of course need to laser around the break. This is a case of advanced DR with combined RD. This is not a walk in the park case. The small gauge cutters with port optimization is what is helping us in a big way. There is an underlying detachment, mind you, in this case. As Dr. Sinha was showing, and even I showed, that these cutters, these high-speed cutters, are not just fancifully faster, but they cause much less tissue drag, and with the duty cycle variation which we can do, things have improved. So we are doing FE followed by endolaser. This case, of course, needed a oil tamponade. This is a organized dense vitreous hemorrhage. And what do we find once we have cleared the blood? The posterior pole is covered with fibrobascular proliferation with no plane of cleavage. Again, good focus and patience is the key. No heroisms, please. Some would, of course, want to go bimanual in such a case. And some would probably try viscodissection or proportional reflux also in such cases. Regarding proportional reflux, somehow I have found that it's probably more useful when you have multifocal adhesions, and doesn't work that well when you have broad-based adhesions. And where you have multifocal adhesions, anyway, there is a plane of cleavage, and with experience you can use that to your advantage and shave without the need of proportional reflux. But I am not saying that I have anything against proportional reflux. You should all give it a try. Experience teaches when and where not to venture further. So PRP is done, followed by gas endotamponade. This is a case of diabetic combined detachment. We plan to go bimanual. The fibrobascular proliferation is lifted up with an end-gripping forceps. Be gentle, have a controlled lifting action. Don't get over-aggressive. And the membrane is being cleaned up with bimanual technique. If you pull too hard, you will cause iatrogenic breaks all around. And it's not just preretinal traction, but also the subretinal traction which needs to be relieved. And even if there is retinal shortening, which is called retinal traction, intraretinal traction, that also needs to be relieved with the help of retinectomies. See, there was a subretinal bag here which was removed. There is a residual membrane in the nasal quadrant which is removed. timely cautery, as I have been mentioning and my previous speakers also have mentioned, is very important. This while doing FG, we noted a subretinal band and that too was removed. So endo laser is done, and of course you need to follow up with silicone oil tamponade. In cases of advanced DR with florid neovascularization, it's probably a good idea to use anti-VEGF adjunct. But what is important is the timing post using the anti-VEGF adjunct. Best done between 3 to 7 days post using the intravitreal anti-VEGF. The anti-VEGF, of course, would reduce the vascularity of the proliferations, and studies have shown, and we ourselves also presented a paper at the academy where we showed that it reduces the number of instrument exchanges that you do. It reduces the surgical time. It reduces the need for endocauteries. It reduces the need for silicone oil tamponades. It also reduces the possibility of post-operative vitreous hemorrhages. Dr. Joyantugo was talking of. The stable IPs of the new machines help removing the thick proliferation over the underlying detachment. It gives you a very stable feel. Again, rollback technique in action. Things much better than what we had started with. And the retina is settled under air. PRP and endo laser are on the break. The breaks here are performed, and silicone oil tamponade is a better option in these advanced cases. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Arnold, for giving such a nice, precise and focused presentation. I should really congratulate. Talking on intraoperative hurdles, today's way to manage.
We've already seen a lot of techniques related to the diabetic retinopathy, and over a period of years, whenever we operate these cases, when we look at a lot of techniques which are brought out by a lot of people, I think there's not one technique which works for all kinds of cases, and we keep using all kinds of techniques to customize it for a particular patient. That's what I've learned over these years. So let's just take you over a few assortment of cases where we use different sort of techniques to tackle different situations. Now, this is a classic situation of a large subhilar hemorrhage over the macula, which is blocking the vision, and of course it's an untreated diabetic retinopathy, so it's a straightforward procedure where you do a vitrectomy, remove the subhilar blood, which is usually liquefied in this particular position under the hyaloid, which is fortunate, usually have a clot in this place. And once you've cleaned it, you can identify the areas from where there was bleeders. You could diaphragmize and then do a classic endo laser, PRP, and then you're more or less sorted for the situation. So this is a very classic situation of diabetic retinopathy case coming to you for surgical indication. This is again a more denser subhilar hemorrhage where our aim after doing a vitrectomy is to go and find the hyaloid plane, remove it, and then again expose that liquefied which we were talking about. So here, once we clean up the vitreous, we are identifying the hyaloid and pulling at this. And here you see that sometimes it's a more thicker and more adherent as compared to some other situations where it simply just comes out. And here it gives a feel of getting a bit loose from the layer below, but it still does not expose the underlying blood. So it's probably still not the absolute rim of the hyaloid, and you're probably just segregating membranes within the sheets of the vitreous which are implicated because of the density of the blood over a period of time. And now, after that, you approach, this is the true hyaloid which comes out, and it has to be done under the watchful kind of consideration around the area that we pull, because sometimes the extent of hyaloid in the periphery can suddenly pull off and form large breaks and hemorrhages. So this is a maneuver you need to do, especially nowadays we use wide-angle systems. You do have a good view, fairly good view of things around the area that your field of view is located, and so that you can take care of the peripheral situation. And once it's exposed, you can see that
it comes off easily because it's liquefied as we talked about. And then identify the bleeders and do a good laser as a more finite treatment in these cases. And then of course you have these patients who have vitreomacular traction or sheets of membrane, which even Dr. Arnold showed that how with the new generation of cutters you can actually, instead of trying to peel, you can actually make invades inside these membranes and try and relax these areas and find a good plane with the cutter itself instead of trying to pull everything with the forceps in these processes. So these are different ways where different situations of the thick sheets of hyaloid which cause traction as well as they cause membranes in between. So this is the way that nowadays we manage instead of using a forceps to kind of peel the whole area. And at times I also leave the peripheral part of these sheets the way it is, not always try to remove them unless they are loosely adherent like this. And as you also saw in the previous video, you can just take your cutter and just go and keep trimming them and you get a good plane at times. But at times you'll be stuck with strong adhesion, so there it's better to just segment and leave a small stump rather than trying to peel off totally from that area. So these are just some pre and post of these peeling cases. And here there was an adherent sheet which, as you see, I've left and we just follow it up because our main aim is to make the visual axis clear, and as long as it's fibrous and stabilized, it should be fine. And then you have this thick traction which is just temporal to the fovea, which is very strong, and here you should be careful while approaching that. So you kind of go and create inlays between the hyaloidal sheets as well as the adhesions and not go and pull out all the attachments. So keep on segmenting all the attachments, isolate them, and then tackle each of them. Some of them you can just cut up to the rim and just leave a small stump which will be later diathermized if it's bleeding. And so you assess with a mild vacuum how it's responding. At times these sheets just come off with your cutter, at times they won't, and then you can trim them. Then you see that the macular traction has to be also tackled. So here we remove the ILM sheet which was still there as a part of the traction. Because the traction was so close here, there's still a residual fold which is there from the stiff proliferation which was posterior. Now this is usually something which is atypical. Usually a dense fibrovascular proliferation never comes out so close to the fovea. They usually attach to the artery. But there are some cases where you might find a very posterior attachment of fibrovascular tissue which is there. And then there is chronic cystoid edema which is not responding to your line of intravitreal injections and all that. So they sometimes need surgery, and here you see there is a membrane which is probably the cause of chronicity of the membrane, so of the edema. So we first go and peel off the membrane with a forceps and identifying any of the edges. Then once you have an edge, it is easy for you to take it off circumferentially. Once you've done that, there's at times even an ILM underlying it, which is also thicker, and you need to identify that if possible. But I don't always go and try to look for an ILM in these cases. If I have a membrane which I see, I just peel it off and give an intravitreal anti-VEGF injection, which would usually take care of the edema in most situations. And then you have this proliferation which is spanning over the fovea, and here you can go and tackle it directly. And here I sometimes use the technique by Praveen Duggal, who has taught us that why don't you use proportional reflux, which actually expels fluid. So you sneak in your cutter tip underlying this membrane between the retina and the membrane, and then reflux it so that the fluid is squirted out, and it actually helps you create a plane. Then again cut whatever plane you identified. As you can see, there is some spillover of some of the tissue which comes out when we expel, which is typical because whatever you're aspirating in the tubing tends to get expelled a bit when you reflux. And it helps you create this plane very passively instead of going and doing it with the forceps. So this is another way that I many times use if I have a loosely adherent membrane, not extremely loose, but you have something which is stuck but can be very easily delaminated just using a fluid burst from there. So as you kind of sneak in more and more, you'll get a nice plane, and then you can keep cutting, segmenting, and then finally you target just is to segment it up to the maximum adhesion where you feel that it's not going to feed. So just leave that feeder stump and that. So this is the way that I follow in most of these cases. And of course, most of us are now using preparatory avastin for such florid cases. And this is a case where avastin has not been used, and we are all used to seeing a bleed which occurs at times when you pull off these shreds of attachment. There's suddenly a lot of ooze which comes out, which delays. You have to go back, aspirate, raise pressure, do a lot of things. So once you have treated it with anti-VEGF, a case like this where, as you see, the front has already become avascular because we treated it a few days back with anti-VEGF, then you can just go and cut and it will not bleed. Even if it bleeds, it's less profuse and gives you a lot more time to get into a situation. These are some pre and post situations of the cases, and we recently published some data relating to the DRDs with the avastin as well as incidence of bleed following 23 gauge headwind as compared to the 20 gauge that we used to see. Then of course the chandelier use, as and when you feel that the cutter alone is not going to take care of the traction, if it's too intense and you need two hands, you could use the bimanual, and so the chandeliers are very useful. Although the use, the requirement is getting less and less, and that's again because of the same reason that the cutter takes care of a lot of things which in the past we used to rely on two hands to do it. But still, there are situations where I would use it where I feel that I don't have good control just with the cutter, and I would create more breaks. So you can use forceps or a pin in one hand and the cutter in the other. Then the concept of inside out and outside in. The past we've dealt with a lot. A lot of people say do an outside in, a lot of people say inside out. And I think I've done it in a lot of cases, both ways, and have successes and failures with each in certain cases. So, as I said, I always try an approach of trying to clean up all the vitreous and then try to see if I can get an outside-in approach, if I can find the edge of these sheets of membranes which are there. And once you clear off all this hemorrhage and then approach, there are times in cases where you get this edge of a sheet where you'll be able to kind of pull the whole thing off. And here, as you see with the clearing up, finding an edge, using a bit of vacuum, you can actually see that the whole sheet is loosely adherent and it's got this whole fibrous element, but it's not thickly adherent and has got some membrane blood which you can aspirate as you clean up. And so circumferentially, as you see, we've managed to find a plane, and it's gradually with vacuum and cutting, you just step by step go and kind of you can remove the whole thing quite well. So here an outside-in approach has worked efficiently, but I don't think there is a fixed method. I would say that I use an outside-in methodology for all cases. No, because there are a lot of cases where I don't find a good edge, and if I dare try to attempt this, I create a lot of breaks and I end up with a lot of problems. So here we finished removing that whole membrane. Of course, there's some bleed which has to be cleared eventually, diathermized, and laser as a more final treatment. So here the outside-in method works. Well, a case like this where I first was wanting to identify this outside area where after cleaning the vitreous, you use triamcinolone to identify the exact place, because at times you see the vitreous in the periphery where it's attaching, you can find those planes and then try to pull at it. But see here, I can't find a good plane. I've come from the periphery and come up to the center where I don't. So now I start right from the center, right over the disc, and try and find a plane here. So you need to modify your approaches. At times you will find the plane creation much better from inside out, and at times you will create it. So don't jump to a conclusion based only on a fixed technique which is there. Sorry, just keep that. And lastly, another case where sometimes you have a bleeding which goes, which increases when you're feeling, and you need to take care of that. So here is a case again with a diabetic fractional detachment which is there. So you first clean off the vitreous which is there, and then as you see there are vascular proliferations which are adherent there, which we pull at from that area and remove, but then there is a bleed which starts. So these are things we need to tackle. We need to constantly go and create a pressurized to stop the bleeding, aspirated to a diaphragm. Because if you let the bleeding go on, then it just messes up of you and you waste a lot more time trying to just sort that out. So these are some of the assortment of cases I thought that we face improperly. And as I said, I don't follow a fixed technique, but rather to modify it because so many people have wonderful techniques, use it for various things. And I would just like to invite all of you for the AIOC meeting, which is in March. We would showcase some live surgeries on Stanisla Rizzo would be there with us to also update us on the artist.
Thank you, Dr. Manish. I just want one question that
This is a regular one. I mean, there are lots of things overlay, but so now I stopped using the overlay. I'm trying to show a specific technique with the cutter. Then I sometimes use it, but for routine things I don't because it blocks a lot of view.
because just like modern cataract surgery, if you go, we should like what is the intraocular pressure, what is the cataract rate, what is the cataract section.
So it's wonderful to have it, but I used to have it all the time. But now I've stopped because it bothers my view. I cannot show a lot of areas.
Thank you, Dr. Manish. Elaborate lecture on talk on intraoperative hurdles, whatever we are facing day-to-day practice. Now is the most interesting topic. It is what is the future of diabetic vitreous surgery. It's a very I know in our own topics.
Yes, it is a difficult talk actually. I went around searching to see what to stop and what not to stop at this talk. Through with this, so we have the started 20 gauge, 23 gauge, 25 gauge, and now of course we have the 27 gauge. Pretty much 25 gauge is good enough to do all the work which we are currently doing with the 23 gauge. I don't have too much experience with the 25 gauge because the equipment which I use does not support the 23 gauge. This is one of the very few gauges which I have done. So you can segment, you can feed, you can delaminate, pretty much do everything just with the cutter itself. So 25 gauge does do probably about 80% of what we can do with the 23 gauge. So what we are still seeing here is the segmentation. All these steps the previous speakers have very elegantly shown. So peel it and then remove it. Delamination can be done with the 25 gauge surgery. You can cut very close and remove the tissue. And one other concept is to identify the second membrane. The second membrane is the membrane which extends anterior to the visible fibrous tissue. You see that second membrane. So Dr. Manish was mentioning about outside in surgery. Once we identify this second membrane, then we are in the correct plane. Then everything comes into the cutter very, very easily. And without causing any hydrogenic breaks with very, very minimum risk of bleeding, we can shave off all the fibrous tissue from the second membrane. Now, what does 27 gauge surgery stand? So once again, I don't have any experience with 27 gauge. Probably Dr. Manish and others who use alpha may have. So it has got 80% efficacy of the 25 gauge cutters. The other problem is the illumination. So with the use of mercury and xenon, we are able to have adequate illumination with the very, very thin probes. But the issue is these are very, very labile probes with a very thin probes, which are good enough to cut thick fibrous tissue is something which we don't know. Cutting rates, once again, this was touched upon. The norm right now is 2,500 cuts to 5,000 cuts per minute. 7,500 is possible. And there is a novel cutter which has come up. It is called as a back tooth, just like the razor blade which we have. It's called back tooth. Here, this cuts on both ends. Usually the cutter cuts only one end. Here, they have made this on both ends it cuts. So when it goes down, it cuts, and it comes up, it cuts. So that way, just going down and coming up, it cuts twice. So there is a newer concept which has come up. And the port remains open most of the time. So there is one modification of the cutting rate which has come up now. But then what is the role of the increased cutting? Because the thicker the fibrous tissue, just like how we are trying to remove a thick lens, we need a lesser cutting, higher suction. So a thicker fibrous tissue, we may not be able to cut with a higher rate. So we need a lower cutting rate. So the relevance of high cutting rate is to probably decrease the traction, but in a regulated retinal it makes a sense. But in TRD or a combined RD, it makes lesser sense. So is there anything else coming up new? So laser vitrectomy is something which is very, very attractive. So we don't suck and pull because the process of cutting can be suck the retina inside and chop it off. So that's something which may not be possible, which is something which you can avoid with the laser vitrectomy. This is a picture of a laser probe which was introduced 20 years back. So the laser kind of comes at right angles and there is a port which sucks subsequently the vaporized tissue. So this caught vaporizes as it cuts, thereby decreases the risk of bleeding as well. So this was something which was introduced 20 years back. So what we talked about it futuristically, the problem why it didn't catch up was the probe was large size and the rate of cutting and sucking was also slow. And the fiber optic which connects the laser machine to the probe was bulky and expensive, and it was not very, very flexible. So it didn't become very, very popular. And the depth of thermal damage where the laser penetrates into the retina was something which was uncontrolled. So inadvertently we were damaging the retina wherever we were cutting. And the cutting rate was limited by vaporization bubbles. So wherever we were cutting, the bubbles were coming up. So we had to stop, remove the bubbles, and then proceed to surgery. That's why it has become popular. But now, probably a couple of months back, there is a renewed interest. So they have modified the probe by adding these microspheres here. So these microspheres tend to focus the laser exactly at the tip. So this thereby decreasing the damage to the retinal tissue. So this is a prototype probe. The advantage is we can just remove this part of the probe and replace it. So the most expensive part of the fiber optic we can retain, and only the tip can be replaced, and there's a cut section. So this has the sapphire microsphere, and it also has an inbuilt illumination. So you can also see and also cut using these probes. And because of the arrangement of these probes, a less powerful laser can also be used, and laser penetration is only 10 to 30 microns. So this way we should be able to use the laser to cut safely without damaging the tissue, and also use a very, very less powerful laser and a kind of a reusable cutter where just the tip can be removed. So this is just about common. So it has been tested in animals. So it has to, like, I would probably expect the next 5 years we should be maybe using the erbium YAG laser with this probes. This is once again a picture which one of the speakers showed. It's a cannula to inject this probe to dissect the fibrous tissue off the retina, and to make this injected visco visible, you can conjugate it with PVG. So that way you know where the visco is creating separation point. But I really don't need the point of it. So this is again a combined retinal attachment. You see anteriorly there's an invisible tissue. So once that is peaked, the whole fibrous tissue will come in just with the cutter. So most of the times, or rather I seldom use this visco dissection. So if we go anteriorly identify this second membrane and peel it towards the posterior pole, then all this fibrous tissue does come in very, very easily. So the visco, if in case we want to use the visco dissection, this is instrument which is currently being available. So all of us have been doing this surgery of creating the posterior hyoid opening and then cut it off. And if you see carefully, there is one attachment out here. So we may at times not be able to identify this, or we may have seen it in the preoperative OCT, but during the surgery we may not be sure where it is coming in and how we go about it. And after we remove this also, we don't know if we have left something behind. We can use dyes as well. So in those situations, something which is coming up is the ability to do an OCT intraoperative. So there is a probe which is available, pretty much like a vitreous probe. You put it inside the eye and you can have a live OCT. So a similar OCT is available built into the microscope as well. So you just want to come up. So you can have an OCT built into the microscope as you're operating, you can see what's at the macula, or you can use a vitreous probe, put it inside and see how the probe is, how the condition of the retina is, and then tackle it. Yet another condition where the patient has a proliferative diabetic retinopathy, a central macular hole, and a combined retinal detachment. So you usually use BBG or you use time-cellular to identify the hyaloid and remove it. A modification of this is a colored illumination system. Instead of using a white light or yellow light, use a green light. So here there is no dye, but you can see the area of ILM where it is on field. So you can use colored illumination systems to identify the ILM and remove it instead of using the dyes. So different colors give different approaches. Like you can identify different structures in the retina differently by using colored illumination systems. Well, I was sincerely hoping that we don't have to do at all a vitrectomy for a diabetic problem. So if a patient with a diabetic retinopathy, even in the stage of a NPDR, create a PVD. So this patient has decreased risk of developing PDR, decreased risk of developing TRD, decreased risk of developing CRD, probably less problematic macular edema. I was hoping that microplasmin will help, but then it doesn't seem to be the condition. So even in a simple VMT, only about 15% of the patients could be helped, and a patient with macular hole, only about 30% of the patients could be helped. So this is a simple patient with no strong needs current situation, I don't see this replacing a vitrectomy. So we really need to have something else which is cleaves the lamina and fibrillation much better from the retina, and it is PVD. Probably, I don't know when it will come. If it comes, then probably we can stop doing vitrectomy for diabetic retinopathy. So this is my wish list. I wish there were some answers. This is a patient where we have dissected extensively and then they start bleeding. Then this blood clot adheres there. And the process of trying to remove it, we create plaques. So these are situations, however meticulous we are, however bimanual surgery we do. Our labile diabetic who is a type 1 who is sick, who's got a nephropathy, will end up with this. I wish there were answers for this patient also. A patient where we have done extensive dissection, every bit of fibrous tissue has been removed, and then they come back 6 weeks later with extensive leaf proliferation. Again, these are sick patients who do have a very sick systemic condition, then they come up with this. And then we have patients who present with disease like this, because wonder whether to do or not is often the one eye of the patient. But then you can go ahead with the existing, you can see all sclerosed vessels, very pale disc, and the one eye of the patient. We can go ahead with these existing techniques and achieve results like this, most of the time gratifying. But then we have patients like preoperative 624, postoperative 624. We have a disc pallor, sclerosis of vessels. These patients have not had Avastin or whatever to say, or a traumatic surgery. Again, this is a patient like this 624, and then at the end of the surgery, 636, disc will become pain. So these are patients who have not had elevated IOP without anything. You just go ahead with the surgery and then subsequently they will go around like this with or without oil inside the eye. So wish there were, like something comes up for all these patients. So what are we looking at in the future? We will continue to do vitrectomy for diabetic retinopathy, contrary to whatever we are thinking. Equipment, some improvements expected in the future like what I have showed, maybe a laser probe, maybe some other better techniques of cutting. But then techniques, as all of us have showed, we continue to evolve. We learn from each other and continue to evolve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahesh. I think we have chosen the right person. Dr. Mahesh, anybody has any query?
I'm having some questions in this.
Yes, please. Thank you.
We are having ideas and experience of preoperative Avastin use. What about paraoperative use? Do you have any experience for those emerging conditions?
So I have given at the end of the surgery and probably expecting it to work subsequently. So intraoperatively an Avastin is not going to work like a magic bullet, but subsequent vitreous hemorrhage may decrease, not on the day.
The diabetic vitreous hemorrhage, we have done a wonderful surgery. You have seen everything is clear. There is no bleeding intraoperatively. And on next day, probably you cannot see anything where the rebleed. In those cases, how are you proceeding with your cases?
First and foremost, they have bleed, I usually wait. So of course, do an ultrasound to make sure that the retina is in wait. Back and do a surgery. Usually what happens is it's not all the time the clot rise. Some areas we leave the clot behind. And the secondary lysis happens the next 3 days. So when the lysis of the clot happens is when they have a bleed. And then we have to wait until once the lysis happens, the clot again happens at the site of bleeding. So usually it clears if you have removed all the fibrous tissue. Unless there are these labile diabetics when they reproliferate extensively. Over the next 1 month itself they can reproliferate, in which case we need to go back and do the surgery. But usually in about a month's time they clear, otherwise at the end of 1 month I go in for a vitreous hemorrhage.
In those cases, after a month, would you like to go for injection Avastin?
Yeah, recently I don't have too great an experience. So in about 2 weeks' time or so, if they don't clear and the patient is not too keen on undergoing another surgery, I do give them an Avastin. I do find them clearing earlier, but I don't know if it is because of Avastin or not. So I have not done a randomized trial to give credits to them, but I do give Avastin about 2 weeks later in some select patients.
No, I agree with the line of
Controversy about the dosage of Avastin, but like from one of my personal experience I'm taking, we had one patient who developed an inflammation following Avastin. And for the next 6 weeks, whatever we do until the patient was on top systemic steroid, the inflammation continued. After 6 weeks is when it went away. So what it indicates is the Avastin, once we inject, goes and binds to the VEGF, which is along. So these pericytes and like endothelium are not going to be washed out from the eye. So as long as the Avastin is bound there, the receptor is there, they continues to be there. So the dosage, we don't have the increase in the vitrectomized eye.
So in case if there is interior hyalid proliferation, in case there is interior hyalid proliferation, you diagnose these cases in during postoperative period. How will you manage in these cases?
Yeah, in these patients, like it depends, do extensive laser and do cryo. And an extensive peripheral TRD along with rubeous thyroiditis can be enough with no other option but then to do radical surgery. Go inside, remove the lens, cut the anterior proliferation, remove all this fibrous tissue, then put in an oil and hope that the patient's IOP doesn't go down. This membrane, we have to remove all this tissue up to the ora and up to the ciliary body. Yes, but then like if you're able to see it, it's fine.
What is the use of role of endoscopic vitreous surgery in
In future.
I have no personal experience with surgery, but like again, in selected situations where we don't want to probably remove the lens or where the cornea is not clear, then it may be necessary. Otherwise, I think it's a limited role is what it is. I don't think.
Sir, I have a second. Next question.
Dr. R. Sukur.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Dr. M.K. Rathod. Please take the podium because we're running short of time. He will be coming shortly. Is Dr. G.S. Dhami here? Dr. Vasant K. Moderator. Presentation is going to be done. 25 marks are for the content of a presentation. 25 marks are for the. And if you go exceed your time, you lose some points. So please be very careful. Your time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. The topic of my presentation is oral omega-3 fatty acid in blepharitis, meibomian gland dysfunction, and associated diarrhea. We have no financial interest in this study. Meibomian gland dysfunction is one of the major causes of ocular discomfort, leading patients to seek ophthalmologists in current practice. And when its severity increases, it can lead to evaporative dry eye. Whatever the etiological event may be, inflammation is said to be an integral component of blepharitis, MCD, and dry eye. Therefore, anti-inflammatory therapies like topical corticosteroids as well as cyclosporine have been successful in short-term management of MCD, and alternative treatments like dietary have become an exclusive area of investigation. There have been various studies which suggest that a higher dietary intake of omega-3 fatty acid is associated with decreased incidence as well as greater subjective improvement in dry eye patients. Therefore, dietary supplementation with fatty acid has been recommended for MCD patients. Group 2 were given placebo capsule. All patients maintain lead hygiene with daily eyelash cleansing with. The primary outcome measures of the study was OSDI score, ABUT score, BBUM score, and Sigma score. Coming on to the results, we found that in the patient taking omega-3 fatty acid, there was significant decrement in the OSDI score, demonstrating increase in subjective improvement, whereas the control group hadn't shown much improvement. Tear breakup time also increased significantly in the test group, demonstrating increase in tear film stability as compared to the control group. BBUM score was calculated by noting the quality as well as the characteristic of the BBUM expressed from the lead margin. We have seen significant decrement in the BBUM score, demonstrating increase in the BBUM quality in the test group, whereas the control group haven't shown much improvement. Sigma value also increased significantly in the patient taking omega-3 fatty acid. This is the graph showing percentage of eyes with healthy BBUM. At the start of the study, we have similar percentage of eyes with healthy BBUM in both the groups, but at the end of the study, we found that there was significant increase in the eyes with healthy BBUM, which was considered if BBUM score was less than 1.5 in the test group, whereas control group there was no much improvement. Summarizing the results, we can see that omega-3 fatty acid has significant edge over control group in all of the objective measures at the end of the study. So basically, what we are doing that we are shifting the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 ratio towards the omega-3 side, because the breakdown products of omega-6 are pro-inflammatory and that of omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. Therefore, by overloading the system with omega-3 fatty acid, we will reduce the overall inflammatory state that will alleviate the discomfort associated with these diseases, that is blepharitis, MCD, and dry eye, which are thought to be inflammatory diseases. In our study, we have found significant improvement in the patient taking of omega-3 fatty acids, whereas the control group who practiced only lead hygiene, there was no significant improvement seen. Similar results were shown by studies of Marianus Maksai and Rosenik A. et al., who demonstrated the anti-inflammatory effect of omega-3 fatty acids in reducing the discomfort associated with arthritis, anxiety, and associated symptoms. Thus, we can conclude by saying that systemic omega-3 fatty acid is a very useful adjunct to lead hygiene in improving the signs and symptoms of arthritis, anxiety, and associated dehydration as compared to the lead hygiene.
We move on to the next speaker.
Respected judges and my dear friends, a very good afternoon. My topic is results of screening of acute promyelocytic leukemia patients and correlation of ocular findings with their hematological parameters. Acute promyelocytic leukemia is the M3 variant of myeloid leukemia. Very good afternoon to all. My topic is results of screening of acute promyelocytic leukemia patients and correlation of ocular findings with the hematological parameters. Acute promyelocytic leukemia is the M3 variant of myeloid leukemia, and it is a unique type of blood cancer because of its characteristic chromosomal translocation 1517, which leads to the production of a myelocyte mutant protein, the RAR alpha fusion protein. It is this protein which is responsible for blocking the maturation of promyelocytes from that point onwards and its uninhibited proliferation. Now, these promyelocytes bear toxic granules which have procoagulant activity, and they unleash extensive bleeding type of clinical manifestation in these patients, which can result in death within few hours to days. Hence, it is a medical emergency. The objective of my study was to screen APML patients prior to treatment, regardless of visual complaints, for the presence or absence of retinal findings and correlate them with hematological parameters at the time of diagnosis. It was a prospective observational type of study carried out between September 2013 to 2012 in my institute. 71 APML patients who did not present with any other systemic disease were taken as samples. They were evaluated for ocular findings and the hematological parameters like the total leukocyte count, total platelet count, hemoglobin level, the prothrombin time or the PTINR, the fibrin degradation products at the time of diagnosis were taken into account. A PTINR or the prothrombin time value greater than 2 were taken as abnormal. A serum FDP level greater than 200 was taken as abnormal. Out of 71 APML patients, 51 had fundus findings, 8.4% showed only intraretinal hemorrhage, 11.2 showed macular hemorrhage only, 32.23 the majority showed both macular and intraretinal hemorrhages, 12.6% showed CRBO, disc edema, white center hemorrhage along with macular hemorrhage and intraretinal hemorrhages. These are few of the clinical pictures of the patients we received. Cross-tabulating the macular hemorrhage group with the hematological parameters, we get to find that the platelet count, the hemoglobin level and the serum FDP all significantly correlate with the clinical findings. However, when we find out the strength of association using contingency coefficient, we get to see that the hemoglobin level has a higher level of strength of association than the others. In the intraretinal hemorrhage group, we found that the serum FDP and the prothrombin time both correlated significantly. However, the strength of association of serum FDP was higher than that of the prothrombin time. In the MCH plus IRH group, we get to see that the platelet count, the hemoglobin level and the serum FDP all clinically significantly correlated. However, the platelet count and the hemoglobin level had better strength of association than the FDP, and both of them strength of association was almost equal. In the group where the white-centered hemorrhages and disc edema was present, all the hematological parameters correlated significantly. However, the leukocyte count had showed the best strength of association. In this chart, we have divided the macular fundus findings into two groups, the present and the absent group, and have shown the levels of different hematological parameters. As over here, you can see that there is severe anemia more in amount in the present group than in the absent group of MCH positive, the MCH and IRH positive, and in the disc edema group. In the platelet level also, it is very low in the MCH positive group, in the MCH plus IRH group, and in the disc edema group. The serum FDP level is increased in the IRH group, the MCH positive group, and in the disc edema group. The PTINR also follows a similar pattern, and the TLC level is extensively high in the disc edema group. So coming to the discussion part, Dr. Garish J.W. was the first to try out to find this kind of study using 53 AML patients way back in 1989, but he had got that retinopathy correlated best with low levels of TPC. In the same year, Gayer et al. Took 66 AML patients and he had got that retinopathy correlated best with low hematocrit levels. So far, the largest study had been done by Reddy SC, who took 127 acute leukemia patients, and he found that the retinal hemorrhage correlated best with the low TPC level. The only study from India was by Dr. C. Sivaprasad in 2010. He took only 18 leukemia patients and he found that the retinal hemorrhages correlated best with the low TPC count. However, you can see that none of them had taken coagulation profile into account. In our study, we found that most common finding was macular hemorrhage along with intraretinal hemorrhage. Macular hemorrhage correlated best with anemia, intraretinal hemorrhage with serum FTP, indicating that coagulopathy is also significantly contributing to these hemorrhages. When both macular hemorrhage and intraretinal hemorrhage was taken together, correlation was best with thrombocytopenia. Presence of CRP of this kidney and white center hemorrhages correlated best with high levels of leukocytosis. Since my study was done at the time of diagnosis, follow-up of patients for over a period of at least 1 year is needed to know whether the symptoms resolve fully or not, and if not, whether the treatment with ATRA chemotherapeutic agents are contributing to the ocular morbidity in these patients. So I would like to conclude by saying that prospective studies on ocular manifestation in APML patients, especially those which have taken coagulation profile into account, are scanty in literature. Ophthalmic evaluation prior to treatment is emphasized as it differentiates the eye involvement secondary to the disease from the complications arising out of treatment strategy. These are my references and my acknowledgements. Thank you very much.